Hi, my name is Raquel. In order to buy or sell, you have to have the money of the beast on your mind or in your hand. It's one of those words they don't translate correctly. And they have a new Bible translation coming out, but they still probably don't have these words right. There's only one Bible that I know of that gets part of it right. I'll show you that in a minute, but there's the word charagma. No one buys or sells. And it means money. You can see here in the Liddell Scott Greek English lexicon, it shows you that it means stamp money or coin. But another word they don't translate is this mammon. And mammon is an Aramaic word for money. It's also a Hebrew word for money. If you go to Israel and talk about mammon, it means, like in Hebrew it means money. But where is this here? Oh yeah, there it is, in Luke 16. But the Pharisees who loved money heard all this and scoffed. Well, it's, what do they call it? Spring break now. It's really quiet here in town. And it's just like totally dead. It seems dead. Weird stories today is like that earthquake they had in Japan and the flood. It was when I woke up this morning, the newspapers and the news and everything showed all this water just going all over everything. But it wasn't as bad as in Indonesia. They said it went 3 miles in certain places. And I think maybe, I don't know, it's the end of the world, of course. Here's these guys in Afghanistan. They're money changers. There's an article about the Afghan bank. This Afghan bank lost a bunch of money, and they're dealing drugs there. After we lost the Golden Triangle, all the heroin went to Afghanistan. But I got a call today from, he was, somebody, he wasn't selling me anything. He thought I was Jewish, I guess because I donated some money to this Holocaust fund once. I felt kind of guilty because if you go to the Yad Vashem organization, I hope the music isn't too loud in there. I'm going to turn it down a little bit in case it is. But this Yad Vashem they keep record of people that were in the Holocaust, and anybody can file one of these records. And so I filed one for somebody with the same name as me, and then I felt guilty, and so I donated this money to this Holocaust fund. So I get calls from Jewish organizations trying to get money from me, but some guy's going to send me a DVD from somebody, and I'm very interested in seeing what it is. It's a free DVD that some rabbi wants to send me about something. There's a big front page story in the New York Times about Auschwitz. They're running out of money there to keep the buildings going. It's a big tourist trap. And I've been telling you that it's not practical to exterminate people with louse disinfectant and diesel exhaust, which is what these so-called eyewitnesses say happened. But they're going to try to tell the story to a new generation. And of course, there's the railroad tracks leading up to the concentration camp. And they used these, it was like slave labor. They had a Buna Rubbers gasification plant at Birkenau, so they had a lot of people working there where they were making gasoline from coal, and they'd make this producer gas. It's like 35% carbon monoxide, and they were using this coal gas, that's another word for it, is to run trucks and buses. And like I said, it's 35% carbon monoxide. A diesel engine is like 0.4% carbon monoxide, so that it's not practical or possible to asphyxiate somebody with diesel exhaust. If you look on the internet, there's like no reports of anybody committing suicide with a diesel engine. In fact, they have diesel engines inside some of the mines underground because they don't produce much carbon monoxide. Well, that black soot coming out of there, it'll cause cancer down the road that these diesel trucks put out, but it's much cleaner than automobiles. Well, the scary thing about that flood in Japan is those nuclear plants, the electricity got shut off, so they couldn't run the cooling, and they had to release this radioactive steam into the air, and they said that the radiation doses within the area of this nuclear plant was like 1,000 times more than you're supposed to get in a year. So those people better not stay there very long. And how are they going to work on it if you can't stay there? I don't know how long you can withstand 1,000 times, more than you're supposed to get without getting sickness. There's a lot of people that have multiple myeloma. It's some kind of blood disease that a lot of people at Ground Zero in New York, after the World Trade Centers collapsed and they cleaned up all that debris down there, they're coming down with unusual, really like, I think it's maybe like 1,000 times more than you'd expect of people getting multiple myeloma. Not only that, but it's happening at a very young age with these workers there coming down with it. And one of the causes of it is radiation, and there could have been like small nuclear bombs within the World Trade Center, and maybe, the hard part about believing that is because you would think that they would have had Geiger counters all over Manhattan, checking to see if there's any radiation, and a lot of high schools have Geiger counters. It's, for science classes. So, why are these people getting multiple myeloma? I don't know what else it can be caused by. I don't know if asbestos. Everything in those World Trade Centers was like pulverized into toxic dust. You can see this pyroclastic cloud, and steel heavy girders. It says here steel girders blew out 400 feet away. Well, no, the blast wave blew out windows in buildings 400 feet away, but multi-ton sections ejected laterally almost 60 feet at 50 miles an hour. If this building supposedly pancaked, like they say, the official story, it wouldn't just pulverize everything. There was inches and inches of dust all over lower Manhattan, and these people were breathing that. It was like snowing. If you see some of the pictures, it looks like it's snowing dust, and these people were breathing it, and they had like fires burning in the Ground Zero. They just kept burning for days, and they pour all kinds of water on it, and it still kept burning. It's because they've detected these nanothermite particles, which you use nanothermite to destroy buildings with, to bring down buildings. And here you can see, this is a picture of some molten metal that they pulled out of the Ground Zero, and there's no way that airplane fuel is gonna, or an office fire is gonna burn, and it's gonna melt steel. And no high-rise building has ever collapsed from a fire. And there's a really good movie on the internet called Loose Change 9/11. It's narrated by Daniel Sunjata of that Rescue Me. But you can hear a lot of these first responders, like the guys, the firemen were in their fire department talking about the day's events, and they had a video camera, and one of the firemen said it sounded like a controlled demolition. It was boom, 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 boom. On each floor they had these explosions. And like I said, everything left at Ground Zero was just heavy steel girders. If you take a look at some of the overhead pictures a few days or a day after the event, you can see there's no desks, no curtains, no glass, no chunks of concrete. What happened to all that concrete? And it just disintegrated, you know. I mean, it's ridiculous. But a lot of famous people, in fact, there's architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. There's a professor here at this university who is an architect, and he sometimes has meetings at the agricultural building here on Speedway and Mountain. And what the heck is it? Voices of Opposition. If you go to voicesofopposition.org, you can get their schedule. But very few people realize that this building number 7 collapsed on 9/11 too. And you can see, they call it the impossible collapse. And 0 seconds the building's there. And then 2 seconds later you can see it came down a little bit. And then 3 seconds it's just really going down. And there's this architects and engineers, AE911truth.org. And they also have like a pilots for 9/11 Truth. And this guy Charlie Sheehan, he's a 9/11 truther. And the show that Sheehan was on when he talked about his Jewish person who wrote, produced, or directs the stupid show he has, 2.5 Men, he's a 9/11 truther, this Charlie Sheehan is. But it's like Geraldo Rivera said, you can't say anything about the Jews. You know, the Jews control the media, and you can look, there's a guy named, what's his name? He wrote a book called something about Hollywood, and there was a guy in the New York Times, a Jewish man who's familiar with you got Spielberg, and you got Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Fox, and all these. They control what people see. You know, you won't see any. Well, you got a few renegades like Oliver Stone, who made the JFK movie. In fact, I sent Oliver Stone, when I first found out he was making that movie, I sent him this article I wrote. Oh, let me see. This was in the winter of 1987. I wrote an article about who killed JFK. And my friend Ed Finkelstein, who published this, let me have like a 3-page story. And they had these tramps that were arrested behind the grassy knoll that looked exactly like E. Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis, the Watergate burglars. Trying to find my shorter version of this. Here it is. And then the people that were on this Warren Commission, you know, you had President Ford was on the Warren Commission, and then a few years later, here's a picture of the tramps. There you go. There was 3 tramps arrested behind the grassy knoll. If you Google 3 tramps or CIA killed JFK, you'll come up with my website. And these 2 people were later arrested for the Watergate burglary. And E. Howard Hunt was like a CIA agent, an anti-Castro Cuban, and Sturgis actually lived in Cuba. He kind of infiltrated or was working before Castro came to power. But in 1975, they had this commission on CIA activities within the United States that Ronald Reagan served on. If you look at all these people that were on these committees, Nelson Rockefeller was on the, it was called the Rockefeller Commission. He was the vice president, I believe, when this happened. I can't remember, but they were just saying today on TV that, remember when Ronald Reagan was shot? And I really believe that was another one of these Manchurian Candidate type things. Like, you can hypnotize and brainwash some people. Like, some people are more susceptible to hypnosis than others. And I believe I'm one of the highly susceptible to hypnosis type people. And it's only like 5% of the population that can be hypnotized at the snap of the fingers. And they said that Sirhan was an easily hypnotized person. And so I believe that well, there's not only me, but there's like a former FBI agent named William Turner who wrote a book called The Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, where they interviewed several psychologists, a famous one that, what's his name? He invented this 5-point scale for grading people, the grade 5 syndrome they called it, and he was saying that he believes that you can hypnotize somebody to do things against their will, like kill somebody. You just have to make it, you have to add some brainwashing to it, like just say, oh, this person is very evil, he did this and that. You can make up a bunch of lies, and it's your job to shoot him. Or else another way to do it was, and this is what I believe happened with Saran. Saran created a diversion. He was just shooting this gun around wildly, and he never got close enough to Kennedy, Robert Kennedy. Nobody ever saw him get close enough, and the fatal shot was like point blank. They could tell by the powder burns on the back of Kennedy's head. And so I believe that Ronald Reagan was another Manchurian Candidate thing. And the guy who shot John Lennon sounds kind of sketchy. And then there was a guy who shot Wallace, that governor in Alabama. And E. Howard Hunt was involved in that too. He was sent immediately up to Wisconsin where that guy lived. What the heck was his name? But there's a whole bunch of crazy assassins. Like I said, this John Hinckley who killed Lennon, he was kind of a psycho guy, and they all seem to have some kind of ties to the military. Lee Harvey Oswald he was like in Japan working somewhere like on a U-2 base, and then he goes to the Soviet Union and marries a woman, and he defected to the Soviet Union. He allegedly renounced his American citizenship and went over there, and then after turned out he didn't like it, he somehow gets back in again. I mean, this is the cover story to make Oswald look like a communist, and so they set him up too. They made him pass out these papers, those free Cuba papers, and then they had it seemed like with this guy James Earl Ray. Now he's the one who allegedly shot Martin Luther King, and they set him up. They told him, look, you carry this gun over to this hotel and you're supposed to trade it or show it to somebody as an example. So he had his fingerprints all over it, and what happened was somebody else took it from him and deposited the gun in a vestibule. And or else, I mean, it just sounds so stupid. Why would you throw the gun in there and not take it with you, or at least get the fingerprints off of it before you threw it away? I mean, it's so right after they killed Kennedy and Martin Luther King, they flooded the ghettos with heroin, and that's basically one of the reasons we were fighting in Vietnam, was to keep that Golden Triangle open with all that heroin coming in. And so now, after the Taliban got rid of the opium there, the United States immediately went over to Afghanistan, and now the production is better than ever. But this opium is a stupefier. It kills the pain of life. Opiates kill pain. It's a painkiller. So we really need these opiates more than ever now, because there's so many people that are unemployed. And if people were, there was an article just recently. They found like a ton of meth in Mexico. It's just, that meth is like garbage. I don't know why people would want to do that stuff. And but it's like the opposite of heroin. And but I guess it keeps people busy. Without any jobs available, people are going to have to be drugged out. Well, there's an article in the New York Times about, it says here, well over 300,000 troops have returned from Iraq or Afghanistan with post-traumatic stress syndrome and depression and all these other things. And they're taking all these medications and painkillers, and some of them have committed suicide or died from the prescription drugs. And but I mean, 300,000 people coming back and with severe depression, traumatic brain injury, or some combination of those. It's really a tragedy, this stupid war. And it's like Eisenhower warned that, about the military-industrial complex, and Dick Cheney, Halliburton, and all these companies, they're just making money off of wars. It's like, who benefits from it? I like Muammar Gaddafi, though, and Gaddafi is one of these people. There's a lot of famous people who believed in eliminating money, and Muammar Gaddafi happens to say almost the exact same thing that Friedrich Engels says here in the Principles of Communism. But here you can see Gaddafi, the Green Book, and it's in part 2 of the Green Book where he says that he calls it a socialist society, but it's really communist. A communist society will know nothing of money, and there won't be any barter or work credits either. And then socialism is an intermediate stage between capitalism and communism. So, but you see, Friedrich Engels and Muammar Gaddafi believe that once you reach a certain stage of production where modern machinery is supposed to make it real easy for everything, but we're working harder than ever, and we shipped all our machines over to China, and we used to make washing machines and TVs here and all these other things, but we shipped all the jobs over. First we shipped them to Mexico, but then they can make cheaper things over in China, and so there's so many people unemployed that, they have a misery index here, which is kind of an interesting chart that's called Empire at the End of Decadence, American Shame, How the International Monetary Fund's Advanced Economy Countries Compare. But unemployment rate, let's see, America has 9%. These are some of the worst ones. We've got, 20% in Spain, but Korea only has 3%, Singapore 2%, and let's see what Germany is. Well, Australia only has 5.1% unemployment. I think Australia would be the best place to be. Here's prison population too. You can see which country is Singapore, but France has 365 people per 100,000, but the United States has 700. Oh, anyway, I don't know what else is going on. Another story about somebody wrote a book about the apocalypse. It's a smart woman who wrote this. She's some kind of economist, and I underlined a whole bunch of stuff, but I really can't get to it. Maybe I'll put a link up on my Facebook page. So, but these more and more people are coming out saying that we're going to have an apocalypse. Here's an interesting picture of these people mining. They're up to their waist. There's some children over here, up to their waist in this water. This is in Colombia, and they're panning for gold in Colombia. Well, I've only got a minute left here. Like I said, I like Muammar Gaddafi. He's a pretty good guy. Oh, this guy Glenn Beck, that's what I was going to say. He's a gloom and doomer. They're saying he's lost quite a lot of followers, but he still doesn't really know what he's a Mormon, and these Mormons believe in preparing for doomsday, and I hope they approve this medical marijuana. There's a good, we don't have time to do this, because, but I hope they approve this, get it going here pretty soon. Anyway, my name is Raquel. In order to buy or sell, you have to have the money of the beast on your mind or in your hand. It's one of those words they don't translate correctly. And Jesus Christ said you can't serve God or money. You'll either love the one or hate the other. Hold to one or despise the other. Bye.